Hey Ryan, this week Disney Plus gave us the last episode of the latest Star Wars series.
Mm,
This one geared toward families and or preteen children. Skeleton Crew with Jude Law. 8 episodes. A piratey adventure. Um,
yes.
wh- what did you think going in, and where did you wind up?
I mean, I, I think it was spelled out, obviously that this was going to be a less, uh, I don't know if serious is the right. It was going to be more fun. It was going to be, um, it turned out to be very swashbuckling to a certain extent. So
Mhm.
not in swordplay, surprisingly enough, though. There wasn't,
Yeah,
when I think of pirate films, I tend to think of, to me, there would have been a lot more lightsaber in this, and there wasn't. Which
I
going
think
by
that's
what,
okay with the
yeah,
characters
I
they
mean,
had.
yeah, I mean, all things considered, it would have made much sense. Um, but it does make me wonder if we could have that film at some point, and I think maybe some of that film was in Return of the Jedi, if we're going to be honest. Anyway,
With the sail barge, yeah.
yeah, some of that. So, I mean, I guess I'm not going to say my expectations weren't high.
Mhm.
I was, but I was viewing it as what? It's an entry point. I mean, you have to. I mean, Star Wars is such a diverse universe that you'll have these sort of stories in it, and I'm totally fine with that. Not everything has to be doom and gloom. But that said,
Right.
there's some stuff in this towards the later parts, and well, actually, kind of even here and there
Yeah.
that isn't. It's probably heavier and darker than I thought it was going to be, and
Mhm.
I don't think that's a bad thing, and I don't think that kids aren't going to be able to handle it. I think it's actually a good thing when you show kids that the world is a little horrific at times, and they kind of did talked about that to an extent in the final episode
They
with
did.
which I thought, you see a juxtaposition that from the first episode to the end episode, and I thought, wow, that they did do a considerable amount of character arc and growth and change, and um, I maybe that I should expect that from Star Wars TV shows, but there hasn't necessarily been that.
No.
Now that I think about it, that you know, I guess the better ones have had that, but not all of them have had that. So um, I thought there was a lot to like in this. There were moments that were a little frustrating, um, but but you know what? I mean, it also has this whole idea, and there's truth in it that when you're a kid and you speak, sometimes no one wants to hear what you have to say.
Yep.
You could be right, um, but it doesn't matter because you're a kid, and we're just why should we listen to you? Um, and the adults made some interesting choices in the later episodes that I kind of had to wrap my head around a little bit. But when you look at the circumstances in which they've been raised, and you think of kind of we're dealing with a colony that's been isolated and is kind of gone up into its own dogma, and lost connection with the reality of things. People are going to make some questionable decisions, and in general, I think that I was more than fine with it. I'm good with it. I don't know that I loved it. I don't know that it was ever as much fun as it could have been, I guess. Um, and when I say fun, I mean just more. And I know that we're dealing with kids here, but I think some of the action scenes and things left a little bit to be desired compared to what we've come to expect. Um, but maybe based on the characters that were involved, that's how it went. I don't know. How did you feel? What did you feel?
Um, I enjoyed the first few, and then we get through the next several, and there's good and bad in it. Well, I hate to say bad because there's good parts, and then there's parts where I just rolled my eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, the last episode did wrap up the first seven, which is a pleasant change.
Yeah.
There's again, they're kids, so their actions aren't always logical. Especially Neil,
Mm.
Elephant Boy.
Yeah.
Uh, well, my wife pointed out today that if you have a turbo laser, you just keep firing.
Oh yeah. Sure. Sure.
And it's like, it's like in a slasher movie. If you've got the killer on the ground, you hit them until their head is gone.
Yes.
That's what you do. But that's not who
But
he is. So it
but
makes sense
maybe
for him,
maybe
but
maybe his fingers couldn't. It was too much of a thing. I don't know.
for his little stumpy elephant paws.
Something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sure.
but it was interesting. I think one of the overlooked parts of that finale is that the parents, well, maybe not all the parents, but at least, um, what's her name? Fern's mom.
Yeah.
Uh, she knew who the supervisor was.
To
And
it. Well, to a
no,
super.
she did because
Well,
because
I'm
Jude
trying to
Law
think
says
about that.
you're being run. The supervisor's a droid, and she goes, of course, in line with
Mm,
the great work.
sure.
And
Okay.
it's like, so it's like, well, that's interesting. It's like, well, how much more do they know? Do certain levels know about what goes on outside? Because they don't know what goes on outside.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
we learn where they are definitively in the timeline from the supervisor when he comments about Jedi. When Jude Law, when Jod
Sure.
says, yes,
Yeah.
I'm a Jedi. And he goes,
Yeah.
oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And he says why that is interesting.
Uh huh.
Um,
And
so
it is interesting.
and it is interesting. So it's like, oops. And then we get, the definitive backstory. And I'm going to call his backstory definitive because he said it when he was angry.
Oh,
And so he wasn't lying.
I would I would um I would agree with that. I don't.
So
Yeah.
he
Of
wasn't, he was,
all the things said, I think that yes, I think you could feel like there's a very very good chance that that might be the only moment in this entire series where he was completely honest.
yep, because he was just angry and yeah, and kind of sad
Well,
at the same time.
it's that.
So,
Oh yeah. Well, here's where I come from.
right.
Don't look. You can't judge me.
No. And so that was a nice little moment because it's like, oh, that's where, okay, so we get that. So we understand why he can do the things he does. Um, Here is something that I learned today about this show.
All right.
Now, you and I both love Andor.
Yeah.
Great show. Not as many people watched it as should have watched it.
Correct.
Um, then we get Book of Boba Fett. Then we get Ahsoka. Now we
Okay.
get this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this
We're
this
ignoring that
show.
other thing. That's fine.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that I can't even think of. That's how much I'm ignoring it.
all right, all right.
But apparently, Skeleton Crew has worse numbers than any of those
Mm,
viewing numbers.
mm,
And it's like, and I know we've talked about this in terms of the Disney stuff, in terms of the Marvel stuff, and in terms of the Star Wars stuff. And it's like, at some point, you can make a great show and nobody's going to care enough to see if it's any good. And so I wonder if Skeleton Crew's numbers are so low because a lot of the audience is reaching the, oh, look, another Star Wars show
mm,
portion of our program.
yeah.
And so, no, yes, it has flaws. Neither of us is saying Skeleton Crew is great. But Disney's IPs are almost universally at this point reaching a point of near apathy in
Mm,
terms of audience excitement. Now, you might be able to get word of mouth on a film, but a series, it's a lot harder because there's more of
yeah.
an investment. So if the next February, what is it, Valentine's Day, Captain
Yeah.
America 4 comes out.
And it,
It,
someone actually literally asked me today what was the next film that I was kind of looking forward to, and I don't know that I'm necessarily. It's I mean, the Captain America film is what's interesting because it's going to dictate
yes,
the mood that we have going into Thunderbolts and everything else. But
right,
but with Thunderbolts, it's kind of a secondary title. So
yes,
you can screw that one up. But this one, and I realize it's not the same Captain
right.
America, but you can't make a Captain America movie that sucks.
Well,
Because if you can't do that and expect to succeed.
thank you. I mean, when Deadpool and Wolverine came out, what did I say? Said we know that it's going to make money.
Yeah.
It is not going to save the MCU. It is an outlier no matter which way it goes.
And
And it
unless
is.
yeah, well, unless sooner rather than later they incorporate that into, I mean,
Correct.
direct, bring it right on in. And I don't know that they're prepared to do that,
No,
or well, I have no idea what they're, but we're not going to get Deadpool or Wolverine in this Captain America film.
no.
Um,
The closest we
yeah,
might get would be come summertime when Fantastic Four First Steps comes up.
yes, that's yes,
And that's a stretch because people are kind of expecting, I think, even though it has Galactus, they're probably going to try to nugget in Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom
yeah,
at some point. My argument has always been now that Disney owns the Fantastic Four, that's the one they can't screw up. The first family of Marvel has been shite on enough
yeah,
cinematically to where when they did it, and again, that was my concern with casting, was is Pedro Pascal and Vanessa Kirby and Joseph Quinn, is that too much stunt casting as opposed to effective casting? I'm not
mm,
saying they're not going to be able to pull it off. I'm saying, are they trying too hard to critic proof the
well.
movie?
But here's
So
the problem. Here's the problem that they can run into. This is we're getting a little bit out there,
yeah,
but the problem is with critics is those actors, we've seen them in things that are good.
yep,
And so if Fantastic Four isn't good, it's
it's
not
even
the
worse.
actors. It's not the actors we're
No, you're
going to
correct.
blame.
Yes,
So it's going to be Disney, the writers, the director. It's the actors have little to no risk in doing this
no,
because we already know and have loved them in other things. So we know that they can do it. This film, if Fantastic Four is horrible, they can go on and do other things. I don't know what Marvel
does,
does. I mean,
especially if Captain America 4 is also not great.
correct. If
Because
kept
again,
well, yeah,
we've reached the point where good is not good enough.
correct.
But again, that's not us. That's them having lowered their own bar again and again and again. And they've got to clear it. It can't be good enough. It has to be really good to great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's going to. I'm not saying I expect it not to. I want that movie to be good. I want Fantastic Four to be good. I want them to be really good.
Mm.
Um, I want them to go, let's go back to the comics. Let's make, let's make a great movie with fun characters and some heart. Because I don't know why they've been getting away from it, and
Well,
I
I
don't know why
think
it hasn't
yeah,
been working. But I
it
mean,
hasn't
there's all
been though.
kinds of.
Yeah,
It hasn't
yeah.
been. I mean, and there's lots of reasons why that we're not going to rehash here. Some valid, some not. But you cannot you cannot blame 2% of the internet for an 80% decrease in reception.
Correct.
You cannot do it. And I will argue that till the day I die. That you cannot review bomb a movie to 30%. You cannot do it.
Well, not over
At that
time.
point, it's legitimate.
Yeah. Well, not over. You can do it for a day or two, but
Right.
yes, over time, if it stays there, yes, that is problematic.
So,
Um,
but that's I'm not saying they're all 30%. I'm just saying you can't do it.
no, no,
So,
it's true.
but again, I'll argue that till the day I die, it just can't happen. So, they're going to come out, depending on, we're seeing it 3 days prior
Yeah.
to release. We're seeing it on the 11th. Some other people will have already seen it by then in its final form, not in one of the other test screenings. And I don't care what you thought of a test screening. It's a test screening and it's going to change. So you can say whatever you want and it'll probably be different by the time it gets to me. So I'll be interested to see what that final product looks like. And if it's good, I'm going to say so. And if it's not good, I'm going to say so.
Yeah.
No matter how good I want it to be or hope it to be, if you give me an okay film, I'm going to say it's okay, but it should be better than that. And again, that goes, Disney's across the board. And, people aren't excited enough going in. And it's in a series like Skeleton Crew, it's hard to overcome that. A movie might be able to if those opening reviews, not just by critics who will immediately be questioned as shills,
Yeah.
right? But if the audiences come out, on Friday and they say, "Oh my God, they got it right," then you'll get some people that were on the fence to go, "Well, okay, maybe I'll go see it." And then Saturday they'll go see it, and they'll come
Well,
out, and
yeah.
if they agree, they'll be like, "Oh my God, they're right. They got it right." You'll get a couple more people to go, and so if it's good, I do not expect its opening weekend to be its biggest weekend. I think it will actually be
Hmm.
the reverse. I think it will
I don't
grow
know
up
if it's good.
if it's good. If it is not, it will grow down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know that I completely. I think the drop will. I think there will still be a drop, but but we'll see. I do have to say about test screenings, they're not always the most accurate representation of how a movie is going to be
Right,
received. In fact, they're quite. I think they're worthless, um, to a certain extent because often you can't. Yeah, I think they're a bad idea. I think there's a better way to see if those films work rather than showing it to a group of people who may not have cared about it anyway.
right. And that's,
So,
I mean, I don't know if I agree with the story that I heard, whether it's true or not, is they're going to start bringing in what mega fans or whatever they're calling them and involving them in the process. I mean, I kind of appreciate the concept of getting fan input, but I don't know how you actually implement that in a way that doesn't become
oh, it could be
pandering
detrimental.
in the other direction.
Well, and then you'll get the guy who's like, I had all these great ideas and they didn't use any of them.
Exactly.
Ugh. And so my
Exactly.
review is going to be terrible because they didn't use my ideas, and I don't
Right.
care about the. No, I think that,
There are
yeah.
ways to get that feedback and that input
Look,
without
look.
that.
Let's look at the Pixar model. They essentially do a storyboard of the entire film and they watch it. And then they figure out, did that work? Did that do
Right.
what I mean, a lot. And this isn't like they're bringing in hundreds of people from the outside to watch these things. There's I don't know if brain trust is the right, but I mean, these things are looked at and they're scrutinized and they're fixed and they're, and it works for them more
Right.
often than not. I mean, I mean, there are very few bad Pixar movies. There are some that are maybe underwhelming, but
Right.
there have been some bad Marvel movies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but yeah, you got to make better movies or no one's going to care.
Yep. But again, in terms of TV shows, Skeleton Crew is just the latest victim of
Sure.
that. So
Yes.
it's
If the
it
numbers are
is
really bad, if the numbers are bad, they should have been better.
yes, they
This
should have been
one, it
better.
should be better.
Yes, again, it's not. This is not Mandalorian season 1 and 2
No.
level entertainment. It's not Andor season 1 in terms of because Mando is. This should be doing probably 60 or 70% of Mando season 1 because Mando season 1 was funner Star Wars,
Yes.
whereas Skeleton Crew is much more fun
Yeah.
in the Star Wars universe, but even more separated from the Skywalker saga than Mando was.
Yeah. Which is
Um,
fine.
yeah, which is
It's, you
fine.
know,
Which is
they
fine.
need to, and they need to.
Yeah, it's a great big galaxy out there.
I know that
So
I know that the numbers aren't necessarily saying that they need to, but they need to. They and fans need to let them as well.
yes. Well, that's what's weird. Now I guess they're talking about letting Patty Jenkins bring back Rogue Squadron. It's
Which
like
is
great,
again, that's fine, but honestly, I'll watch that movie.
right?
I got no pro, and so if it's a good idea and whatnot, and that's slightly different. I mean, we've obviously had a lot of fighter scenes, starfighter scenes
Yeah.
in movies and whatnot, but that stuff's kind of cool. And some of those characters have been in, that are only in the movies for, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. A lot of those characters people love. So
Yep.
if you want to make a movie, not necessarily based on those characters, but about that, I'm kind of on board.
Right.
I can see having played the video games, having done, there's
Right.
something about flying an X-wing that's pretty cool.
Right.
And if you want to make Top Gun in space, it's better if it's Top Gun 2. But,
Right.
I mean, sure, but that can't be. Rogue Squadron cannot be the film that's going to save and define your future.
No, but it can't drag it down.
No, no,
It
no,
it
because
it has
yes,
it has to
if it,
lift it up.
yeah, yeah,
So,
you can't
but
afford anything bad.
correct. So that Skeleton Crew should have gotten better viewing numbers. It is worth a watch,
Yes,
especially if you have younger kids. Not 4 or 5. That's a little much, but
yeah, 7, 8,
7, 8.
sure, why not? Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Although, I was into Star Wars Empire Strikes Back when I was like 4. So, whatever.
Everything was new. Everything was new back then.
Uh,
So, um, so yeah, so that's it for Skeleton Crew. That one's done. At some point, we're going to talk about What If, another Disney
mm,
property,
mm.
season 3 on Disney Plus, which we will talk about. Um, but we've got some other stuff to talk about, and we will get to that as well. Do we have a screening next week? I don't think we do. I think
No.
our next screening is Captain America, isn't it?
Yeah. A little ways down the line. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it is. Get through Sundance next weekend, and take care of that. But okay, that's it for Skeleton Crew. We both enjoyed it. It could have been
Yes.
better. It should have been better received. If you were on the fence, give it a shot. It is there's elements of Goonies, there's elements of Treasure Island,
Mm-hmm.
there's all of these things, but it is in a Star Wars universe, and it's okay. It's okay. In this instance, okay is enough.
Yeah, the kids are all right. I think
The
was
kid,
the
yeah, there
review.
you go. The kids are all right.
That's the review title I saw. That was for the first couple episodes, but someone wrote that, and I thought, yeah, that's about right.
That's about right.
That's about right.
So, yep, there you go. So, Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus. Give it a shot. If you care at all, give it a shot, and go from there. Till we talk to you again, don't forget to like us, follow us on social media. Go to the website, vsmoviepodcast.com. You'll find all our links there. And till then, I'm Mark. That's Ryan. Bye, Ryan.
Hey, guys.
And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.